Alex, thank you very much for joining us here today. Can you do a very brief intro of yourself and HAMR Energy?
Thanks, Richard. Great to be here. So my name's Alex Smith, as you said. I'm a co-founder of HAMR Energy, and we're a startup in the energy space.
Now, Alex, you joined Energy Next and you had an initial business idea. Can you take us through what that business idea was in your own words?
Sure, Richard. So maybe a bit of context for where we came from. So myself and co-founder David Stribley have come out of the oil and gas business. So personally, I've got 20 years working in major oil and gas enterprises, and it seemed like it was time to pivot careers. So we started HAMR Energy with the aim of creating green chemicals and fuels. And we see that as very important as being part of the energy transition and allowing us to do something different and make a difference at the same time. So HAMR Energy's initial business proposition was to go and look at hydrogen. So we come out of the oil and gas sector, and hydrogen is one of the fuels of the future. So we looked extensively at the ways you can produce hydrogen, and we came up with a concept where you could solve two key issues. One was eliminating waste, and the other one was replacing fossil fuels. So we had a concept and process design which had taken about 9 months to develop. And then we had the opportunity to join the Energy Next cohort at SBC.
Now, you guys came in with that initial idea that was focused around hydrogen. So for the benefit of the audience that might not be across hydrogen technologies, can you just tell us a bit about what that is?
Certainly, Richard, and thanks for that question. So HAMR Energy is hydrogen-assisted molecular recycling. So we are out of the oil and gas industry. So for 20 years worked in enterprise, and co-founder David Stribley and I have taken the opportunity to do something different. And in doing that, we've created HAMR Energy, and it's got two main things that we're trying to do. One is to reduce the amount of unrecyclable waste that goes to landfill, and the second one is to replace fossil fuels with alternate chemicals and fuels.
So take us through how you take waste material and you produce hydrogen.
Sure. So I guess there's a few main steps, and I'll try and keep it relatively simple. So we look specifically for a feedstock or a waste material that is available. So there's a few opportunities there. One, if you're from Victoria, you've got a yellow bin, so there's contaminated paper and plastic in that bin. That's a great material or a feedstock for the process that we're looking at. And then with that, you at high temperature, you gasify it, and that creates a synthetic gas. And then you can use that synthetic gas in a normal chemical process to create methanol. So methanol is a chemical that's used predominantly in the building industry in Victoria, but globally has applications particularly as a gasoline substitute, and you can also use it as a basis for creating other chemicals and fuels.
As we went through the program, you guys also came up with a second idea. Can you take us through what that second idea was and where that came from?
Certainly. So we started with this concept of creating methanol, which is a chemical which will be imported as part of the energy transition. And halfway through the program, we had the opportunity to, I guess, pivot and do something different. And that was to start a business in the hydrogen space and to look really extensively at using the technology which we'd learnt a lot about to create hydrogen from waste feedstocks.
Yeah. You came up with a second idea, and that was a bit of a pivot for you. But interestingly, you moved forward with two ideas rather than replacing one with the other. Can you take us through your thought process there? Because that vastly increased your workload.
Sure, Richard. And that's something that we spent quite a lot of time thinking around with making that decision to pursue a sort of different part of our business. And I think one of the key things that led us really down that path and to pivot was just the opportunity that was there. And at the time we really had a philosophy that if you don't try, you never know. So we'd taken the effort to get the business to a point, to join the Energy Next cohort, and we'd really benefited from just making the decision to go with it. And being a bit flexible and that kind of thing was something that SBC and our other founders really encouraged us to do. So,
Alex, you went against the prevailing logic and the coaching that says focus on one thing and do it really well. And you were quite adamant about wanting to do that. So can you just take us through that second opportunity that came up and why you guys really wanted to follow it?
So I think there was a few factors in that. One is we'd learned a lot about the technology to convert waste into methanol at the time, but the same process could also be used to convert waste into hydrogen. And it was a very chance group of, or combination of factors that came into it. We'd been introduced to the forestry industry, and the project that we were looking at was down in Portland in the Western District of Victoria. So we were able to use contacts and connections there and got the forestry industry involved in the program. And I think that was probably one of the key things, was a chance meeting, a chance discussion, and that kind of developed from there. The other reason was just timing. So as part of a federal grant which needed to be in by the 22nd of November, so we knew exactly what the target was, and having that goal I think helped us a lot, because we knew that if we sprinted to it, it would end, and then we could sort of take a breather, finish off with SBC and the like. And I think the other piece is it didn't preclude us continuing our other projects, so we could keep those ticking along as well, and it was additive to the overall portfolio and the opportunities that we had.
I would say through the program, I know we asked you a lot of questions and we challenged you quite a few times on whether you really should focus on one idea or the other, or you run two in parallel. Was that useful to you?
So short answer is yes. It was great having a group of people that were very encouraging, and really everyone we spoke to was basically, well, what have you got to lose, was the key thing that came through. And I think that did help, because we were really trying to do a second whole stream of work at the time. We had the base projects we were working, we had the work with SBC, and then to add another layer over the top was something that we really had to think about carefully. And yeah, the cohort was very helpful in making us, cheering us along as we pivoted and moved the business down a different track.
So you end up running these two ideas in parallel. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so it was challenging at the time, and I think SBC was very patient with us as we sort of disappeared from a couple of sessions, but we managed to get through it. And I guess the key way we did it, so we had two founders in our business, myself and David Stribley, and when we entered into the SBC program, we'd done it that we were both going to attend all of the relevant sessions to make sure that we got all the benefit from the program and the content in the course. So one of the key things we did was we just started dividing and conquering. So instead of two of us going to all the meetings, we just had one of us go there. And I think as well, we crimped a fair few hours back at the end of the days, so a lot of late nights as well. But I think one of the things that we really learnt out of the program and got a lot of encouragement along the way was that as a startup, you really need to take opportunities as they come and be willing to do different things. And I think that was helpful as well as we undertook the grant program and started our hydrogen arm of our business.
Would you do the same thing again? It still sounds challenging, running two ideas at the same time.
I think we would. In hindsight, we haven't. So that the key element of the work that we needed to do was a grant application. We haven't got that grant yet, but we haven't been told we haven't got that grant. So we're still very hopeful that that will come through. But what it did also do is it opened a huge number of doors and gave us different opportunities. So even if we're unsuccessful, we now have a second sort of project, which is the Portland Hydrogen Hub, and creating a opportunity down there that we're pretty excited about.
Now, I know through both of those different initiatives, you met quite a number of different corporates. I think some of those relationships are still ongoing, but could you tell us a bit about that? Sure.
So one of the key things that we loved about the interaction with SBC was the encouragement of the corporate partnerships. So we bought quite a few of those ourselves, but we also had some introductions from SBC that were pretty beneficial. One thing I will say about corporate partnerships is you need to keep generating them. So, some partnerships, just kind of meander along and some, disband. So you need to keep bringing new people into your kind of sphere of influence. So I take that out of, especially the past 6 months. So yes, some of those corporate partnerships are enduring. What we did get out of doing the grant application was building those corporate partnerships even more strongly. And as soon as people need to start signing things and agreeing to actually participate in things, and that really helps bring groups together. So yep, we're still talking with a lot of the people that we met up through SBC, but as you'd expect, some of those have dropped off as well. But we continue to build those corporate partnerships.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. So what's next? You've had a very busy past 6 months. What do the next 6 months look like?
So there's a lot out there at the moment, as you'd expect. So we are waiting still to hear on this grant application, which will accelerate the Portland Hydrogen Hub. But we continue to work with our corporate partners on waste to methanol opportunities in Melbourne, and we're pretty excited about how some of those are going. And we're also continuing to build our networks and looking at different opportunities to sort of cast forward. So we're looking to build relationships with forestry businesses and water utilities and those kind of things. So we've got a constant pipeline of people that we're working with, and pretty excited about the next few months.
Now, as a founder that went through the program, have you got any advice for a founder that might be sitting out there considering going through an accelerator? What would you say to them?
So I think, obviously, Richard, it would depend. It's obviously a choice and it needs to match in with where different businesses are at the time. For us, I'd say it was a absolutely fantastic opportunity, and one of the key things which I would advise people is really considering what have you got to lose, and what you get out, what we got out of it, and which others may get out of a really structured approach to the startup space. And we'd never been in startups. We'd worked in major enterprises for our entire career. So for us, it was just fantastic to have a group of startup experts, basically people that had seen hundreds of businesses with good ideas, and many fail, some succeed, and getting the benefit of that experience was pretty fantastic. So if that sounds like a good thing, yep, go for it. The other thing which we really liked about SBC was the mentoring, and we still use that today. And so it's not just a course, but people, you get connected, and we got connected to a whole range of different people who have been invaluable in progressing our business. So again, if that's something that I think your business might benefit from, I'd highly recommend to people to participate in a SBC course.
Well, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your wisdom today, Alex. All the best for the next 6 months.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.